Let's start the party.
Is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Hey, lovelies. How are you doing? This is Rhea Boyle from Long Live Radio. We've got the panel show for you today. We've got not as many in today. We've had some technical problems, and I'm going to apologise up front for some of the audio because some of the audio is pretty tough to listen to. But we're going to go with it because I don't want to exclude anybody. Morning, Robbie, in the chat there. Thanks for joining us. So the panel show today, they don't know what I'm going to be asking them, okay? They don't have a clue what I'm going to be asking them. So it'll be good fun. And we've got Ed in from Canada, Fred from Canada, Nan from Ireland, and we've got Stockport Andy in from the UK, and we've got Scotty, expat UK, down in Australia. Guys, the question today, I've spent the last half an hour laughing. You saw the meme that I posted. I won't do that right now, though. God, it was so funny. But right, on to the serious stuff, because this is a panel show. It's not a funny one. Let me bring up my... I so want to go there and talk about it because it's so funny, but it's probably not the right place to do it. I'm just looking for my show notes here. Bear with me a second. Panel on air. Right, here's the question for you guys. In the current news cycle, and it has been going on forever, with this in mind, I want to ask you, accusation versus evidence. How do we deal with it? What's going on? Because I feel that the world is swayed heavily by accusation that's wrapped up in evidence. And I want to know, how often do you think accusation replaces evidence? And let's go over to Fred for that one. Let's go to Canada. Fred, how often do you think accusation replaces evidence?
Oh, probably 10 to 1, Rhea. That's a terrible thing. You can be accused of something with no evidence. It can destroy your life, and it's just a horrible thing. You have to have the evidence. Why? Why do they have to have evidence? I mean, why would you destroy a person's life out of a lie? Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely, darling. Yeah, and you got due cause in the legal matter, but I'm thinking in the media as well. So you see all these headlines, all these reference points, far right this and Nazi that, and then just so much on the media that we get informed with. I feel that they're trying to say that it's evidence, but it's not. It's actually accusation. Nanon, let's go over to Ireland. Nanon, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, what sprung to mind immediately when you said that was the swearing in of Judge Kavanaugh, which was televised in the States, where we had Blasey Ford, a professor of psychology, accusing Kavanaugh of rape that happened way back when they were in high school or something like that. Now, she had absolutely no evidence. It went before the Senate. She couldn't remember a thing. It was like the worst soap opera you could ever imagine. It was picked up by all of the Democrats, and I just said to myself, what have we become? Back to you guys. That's just the beginning.
Yeah, no, totally. The Blasey Ford thing was like to behold. It was one of those amazing things. Let's go to Scotty. Scotty, your thoughts on this?
Well, I think it's the environment we live in today has totally changed during that regard, and it can affect everybody in their everyday lives now. It's not just a smear in front of the front page of the Sun anymore. It's in your workplace where you could get you could get smeared being a racist or a sexist or a misogynist or whatever word is fanciful that day, just for cracking a joke or squeezing by somebody in a tight space or whatever it is. You get branded, and people either lose their jobs or they get besmirched in such a way that they're kind of shamed possibly to leave their jobs. And you get stupid, nasty people as well that will go on social media and spread this stuff about. So it's not just the big names. It's sucked right into everyday life now.
Oh, absolutely. Let me say hello to Robbie. Hey, Robbie, how are you doing? What's up, man? Thank you for joining us. We've got Akakashi, which I always say wrongly, and we've got Joss. Hey, Joss, how are you doing? We're talking accusation replacing evidence. How much does it affect the world? Let's go over to Simon. Simon, what are your views on this? Okay, so we've lost Simon. Let's go over to who else have we got in here? Martin, have you fixed your audio? Are you around?
Yeah, I think it's okay now.
Yeah, you got it. What are your views on accusation replacing evidence? How much does it go on?
I think it goes on quite a lot now because basically on social media, people can basically say things in the heat of the moment or really realise just how the repercussions can have, because on the internet is like an elephant, it never forgets. Once you put out tweets, someone can take a screenshot, so things said in haste can stay with you forever. These are all things people have to remember on social media. But these can also be used maliciously, and then people can deliberately use accusations. The whole Blasey Ford thing was so obviously deliberately a way to sabotage Trump's choices for Supreme Court justices. It's just so obvious what was going on, and just became a complete pantomime. I watched the Kavanaugh sort of cross-examination thing, and it was better than a major motion picture. It was just really tense and just an amazing pantomime. It's just crazy just how desperate they were getting to make things stick.
Oh man, yeah, it was like theatre or pantomime, wasn't it? Simon, you've opened your mics. Let's go to Simon. Simon, what are your thoughts on this?
Right, can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, you'll hear it back on the recording later, but yeah, we can hear you.
Right, well, my argument to this is what's happened to the rule of law, innocent until proven guilty. There's been cases of people accused of rape and they're named in court, and once they're named, the name's out there, that's it. They're judged by media, social media, newspapers, and their lives are destroyed. I think it's, the rule of law is non-existent. You should never be. If you're accused of something, let's have the facts first before they start pointing fingers. Isn't it like the young lady mentioned about what happened in America? That was an utter disgrace. The poor guy, trying to besmirch him, and that's what's coming down to life now, unfortunately.
Absolutely, my friend. Okay, who else have we got? We've done Fred, Martin, Nanon, Stockport. Oh, Valsu, what are your thoughts? How much do you see accusation trying to walk in the boots of evidence? Val, you around? Oh, blimey. It's another one of those slow motion car crashes, isn't it? Come on, guys. This channel's, the guys that are in the panels channel, this is for talking, not for listening. If you want to listen, go up with the one above where it says SAC server. I'm going to read out some of the comments while you sort yourselves out, as it were. What else have we got? This writing is tiny. Akakashi, the mainstream media is the mouth piece of the Democratic Party. You're not wrong there. They are activists for the culture Marxist. The problem we have, we do not highlight the hypocrisy enough. Well, no, that's exactly it. Let me say hello as well. Who else is there? Hi, Mandy. Hi, so what? How are you doing? Totally. And it's not just in the case of law as well. It's in the case of what the media runs all the time. A source says. What kind of sauce is that? HP sauce, red sauce, creamy sauce, and they're just making this stuff up, and people are, I believe, going for it. They don't really question because it come from a certain outlet, So let's have another go for Val. Val, what is your take on how much do you see accusation replacing evidence?
Oh, I see a lot of, accusations to spin a narrative that they want you to believe. And what we have to do is we have to sort things out for ourselves and start thinking for ourselves. It's okay to collectively come together and discuss like what we are right now, but it's always best to do your own research and to come to your own conclusions and then try to, make your case on, judging from your own research and not to just take someone's word for, an accusation or a statement.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel I see it all the time, where you see these articles come up and you look at the wording and you think, hold it a minute. That is so not right on so many levels. Hi, Joy, how you doing? It's not right on so many levels and it seems to be swaying our world, but yet there's nothing to be done about it. You've got the mainstream corporate media pointing their finger at social media, which aren't sort of official outlets, they're opinion pieces, aren't they? And then you've got a corporate media that have bought the licenses, they've got the funding, and they run these articles and they do it time and time again, where it's just a source said, and it's just not good enough. Right? Any further views on this, Martin?
Can I come in on that one, Rhea? I'll just come in quickly on just to follow up what I said earlier on about the Blasey Ford, the Judge Kavanaugh. We had one of the top New York lawyers come in as well, Avenatti, with three or four other women making similar accusations. And between the lot of them, there wasn't 1 ounce of proof between them about these accusations. And I'd just like to follow up as well. And this is where the waters get very muddied. Ireland has just introduced a new law on domestic violence. It came into effect on the 2nd of January this year. Just a moment, I'll just bring it up here.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, we could do with knowing about that. And just a heads up why people are online, Nanon's going to be joining us on Sunday at the 2 p.m. slot GMT for you guys to listen to. So she's going to be a new addition to the Sunday Long Live radio team, as it were, as we grow. And we've also, Ed is going to join Bullrock for Canadian news as well. So that we're going to have a bit of that going on. That should be good fun as well. How are you doing there, Nan?
Yeah, well, I'm just going to go ahead with this then. It says one of the key new protections for victims of violence, victims under criminal law, is the creation of a new offence of coercive control. This is a run-on from the Blasey Ford and the Avenatti thing, and it links into your question about evidence versus opinion. This is psychological. This crime is now psychological abuse in an intimate relationship that causes fear of violence or serious alarm or distress. So here we are in Ireland with a criminal offence, with an accusation of fear of violence or fear of alarm or distress. So I'm not sure how anybody could prove a case like that. You know what I mean? Not that we're waiting for violence to happen and that it has to be proved, but the very notion that somebody could accuse somebody, and this is all run by the women's organizations as well. So it's obviously women against men. There's no provision in here for men to to come up and say, to use this as well. I've been accused of this, or I was in fear. I was in fear of distress. Fear of distress. How would you prove that? You know, in an intimate relationship. Now, just the very word intimate relationship is defined in this law as well. So I have never before seen such an intrusion into the family as coming into an intimate relationship. and creating a law that is in criminal law that these accusations are going to have to be heard. Now, I can just imagine the nefarious aspect of that if somebody was peeved enough, they can make these accusations under several different banners.
Oh, no, I believe you totally. I've sat a big Crown Court hearing with on that very thing, and they were trying to prove they just can't do it. But at the end of the day, someone has to call. In that scenario, that's what we have a jury for, isn't it? They have to call it. You have to work out. Someone has to call a judgment on it. But is what's happening now is they're swaying the world on a bunch of accusation, be it in court or not in court, and it's just so bad. It's not funny, and it's something we're really going to start picking up on Sunday Long Live Radio as well. I think Ed's around as well. I'm sure Ed's got something to do it, and he's going to be joining Bullrock as well on Sunday Long Live Radio. So we've got a few new hosts for you this Sunday coming. Ed, what are your views on accusation? How often do you see accusation replacing evidence?
Ray, it's so pervasive around the mainstream media. You read about it all the time in the newspapers, and the retractions rarely come up. And we can look back at what happened to Patrick Brown. He was the leader of the political right-wing party in Ontario. Its population is around 12 million people. A couple girls came out and said they had a unsatisfactory evening with the gentleman. This is going back maybe 10 years ago. And just those accusations, before they were even proven or taken to court or evidence was put out, he was crucified in the mainstream media. The party actually ended up taking him down, and they had to rush to get a new president reelected. Now, the guy's political career was almost wiped out. He has been reelected locally with a huge majority. And that's just one instance. This happens day in, day out. A few months ago, we had one older lady that was, I think she was a grandmother. She was at a Trudeau rally fundraiser out in the country, and she started yelling a few things and asking questions and asking when Quebecers will get back their $146 million that they spent already against that they spent for the migrants. Trudeau came out and called her, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think he said something along the lines that she was a racist and she's not a true Canadian, and that we have no time for people with her attitude in Quebec. And the truth actually never really came out. The lady really didn't have a chance to do a rebuttal, but the political elites, they attack us. It's happening all the time. It's just mind-blowing how often it happens. You get Antifa calling everybody a racist. This is common occurrence. It's like walking your dog every day. If they don't like what you're spewing, or if they don't like what you're saying, or if you're even slightly to the right of center, they're going to call you a racist. It's totally unfounded. But because the accusations are made and it becomes the accepted truth, even though it's never been backed up, nobody does a lot of people don't do the research, and they're just painting you with a bad brush. It's happening all the time. I can spend hours on this.
Totally, that's why I picked up on it. We're going to go to Stockport. I just want to say hello to Viking. Hi, Viking. Thanks for joining us. I've not seen you before, but maybe you've been here. I'm not sure. Stockport, what's your view on this?
Well, I'm just going to tell you about probably it's going back about 5 years ago now, and it was a personal friend. It made national press for around 2 weeks, and it was a girl called I forgot her name now, but she was called the nurse of death. She was injecting saline injections she was supposedly injecting insulin into saline injections. Rebecca Layton was her name. She's a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, and the sun absolutely destroyed her for 2 weeks. It was all over the news. She was killing people, and they called her the nurse of death. And it was proven. I mean, she was a personal friend. I knew her very well. I knew her partner very well, and they absolutely destroyed her in the press. She was the people at Stepping Hospital in Manchester, well, in Stockport, said she wasn't a good nurse. She wasn't. She was an exceptional nurse, and she was an exception. I don't know how far it went, but they actually fled. They fled. They fled Stockport. Her husband, he had a shop on the A6 in Stockport Road. They had a perfectly good business, and she was absolutely destroyed for 2 weeks. You can look up the case, Rebecca Layton, and she never did anything wrong. And when they found out who the perpetrator was that was actually doing it, it wasn't this perfect nurse. It was actually. I don't know. It was Chinese. It was an immigrant nurse that was coming in and poisoning people. But it was massive. You'd have to Google it. But it's people I knew personally, and it was horrendous. The son made massive amounts of money out of it. And my point is, if they can sell a paper. If they can sell a paper over 2 or 3 weeks with a massive story, they don't actually care how much they're going to get sued, because the story they're selling is going to massively make sued. So they can put out false narratives and lies, knowing full well that they can get sued. But the revenue they make for the false news is going to more than cover any lawsuit that goes against them. And this was the point. They destroyed this. She was absolutely. I know her personally. My family knows her personally. Everybody in Stockport knows her personally. She was an amazing nurse, and her name was Rebecca Layton. Look it up. She was called the nurse of death, and her life was destroyed. Her family's life was destroyed by the son, and they know, and they do know, they can run a story, massive story, and they're going to get thousands, hundreds of thousands, if millions of pounds selling this story. They know they're going to get a lawsuit against them, but they know that they're going to make more money than what they have to pay out in compensation. And I don't know what the outcome was, because she had to disappear. And yeah, she was a personal friend. Her husband was a personal friend. Everybody in Stockport, a lot of people knew her, and she was an amazing nurse. And her life was destroyed. I don't know whether she got compensation. We don't even know where she is anymore. But this is how things go, and it is absolutely terrible. These big news, they can destroy anybody's life for 2 weeks and sell. They can make millions over a story and destroy somebody's life. They're only going to, okay, if they're liable, they're only going to have to pay maybe a couple of million. They made 20 million off the story. They're going to pay a couple of million in compensation, and this is how it is, and it's absolutely disgusting. But this is the way it is. And what do you think? I mean, we know that, don't we?
Someone was going to jump in there. Who's going to jump in there?
I like to, because I do have something else to say, but I don't know how deep you want to go into this. We have to also look at it on the big picture scale, and it's being done more now than ever, but it has been done for years. Whatever narrative they want to push is what they tend to put out there, and they will ignore the things that we should be paying attention to. And there's a double standard and a hypocrisy, and it's just so blatant. I mean, everyone could see that. When you have a problem with certain people coming into your country and committing violent crimes, and it's not being reported on television, but yet something that isn't even a real crime being made to look like there was a crime. And that's being reported on television. So you can see that there's something really wrong.
Anybody want to pick up on that?
Yeah, I'd just like to say as well that if anybody wants to just take a look at this this type of accusation versus fact, Cheryl Atkinson wrote, she's a very prestigious journalist. She wrote a very good book called The Smear. So this is not an opinion piece. This is actual fact about the stages involved in actually organising a smear on somebody. It's called The Smear, and it's by Cheryl Atkinson.
Wow, that is great. That, my friend. Yeah, no, I want to see that actually, because do you know what? I've seen it before, but I never got around to saying it right. Let me say hello to some lovelies in the chat here. Let's see what we got going on. I think you're chatting amongst yourselves, aren't you? Which I kind of get. This is a bit of a random one. Nemo says, hey, Nemo says, how you doing? Nemo says, what is most worse than the major issues is the blatant, in your face, off you nature of it all. Oh, right, F-U nature of it all. Absolutely. And this warning came up a while ago, didn't it, with the conglomerates buying up all the media stations? Because you think for most people, they're busy working hard. They don't have time to research stuff. You need a trusted source, don't you? And there's your problem right there, because these people that the mainstream media are seen as the trusted source. But yet you look across it and it is just like, wow, that is so not cool. And that is something we're really going to start to be picking up on. The headlines and the language within the piece that they're putting out there, that they're advising people with. So that's something we're really going to be keeping an eye on as well. Right-wing watch like to smear people. They do, absolutely. So let me fire another question into the panel here straight away. Do you think there's a simple solution to fix this, for people to be able to spot accusation replacing evidence? And I'll throw that over to, let's go, Fred, your take on that, please.
Oh, it's that's a good one there, because nobody knows the truth. You watch CNN, your local news, and if you know anything about the story, you say, well, that's not quite how that happened. And you just can't get the truth out of any of them. Even your local news is terrible. It's unbelievable how bad it is.
Oh, man. No, once you switched onto it, it's there to be seen, isn't it? But then you go to these so-called trusted sources and there it is, black and white. Your thoughts on this, Ed? Any simple solutions to advise people on how to spot this stuff?
Well, that is a really tough one. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't have the time to invest in finding truth of the matter. And again, it's the fact that all people accept that MSN, or most people accept that what you read in the MSN is actual truth. Now, the people they're coming after, if they're just normal people, do they go ahead and they try to sue the person making the accusation? And if they do, it probably gets buried in the media. It takes years to come out, and by then the news cycle has gone on and people have forgotten about it. But the people are still walking around branded by this accusation. And the other double-edged sword about these accusations are people that know what's going on and know the truth. They say, wow, these people really got dragged through the mud, and yet they didn't have anything to do with it. So do I really want to get involved? Do I really want to speak up? And it's really effective at shutting down the opposition. As far as the solution goes, only lawsuits, but you got to have deep pockets to get that to stick, especially if you're going after the media.
The media have so much to answer for, don't they? Martin, what's your views on this?
Yeah, I think what you really got to worry about is that if there are truths out there they don't want you to know, the only real defenses they have is like informational chaff. They produce lots of things which are nearly true, that have elements of truth, that have elements that are basically like accusing random people that they're paedophiles to hide the real paedophiles, things like that. And that you just create confusion, and when there's confusion, you're hoping people aren't going to want to keep digging and getting at what's really going on. A big tactic.
Oh, absolutely. Divide and conquer and subdue the enemy. Let's go. Scotty, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know when it began, if it's always been there, but I think when I was first aware of it as a kid was the Sioux culture that existed in America, which is widespread now, but the fact that this person's suing this person and this person's suing this person, it seems to be such an easy thing to do, and the only winners seem to be the lawyers. It's not the justice system, it's not the people who are accused or the people who are allegedly guilty or the people who are making accusations. Nobody wins out of it, because once you've been tagged with something, it just hangs over you for the rest of your time. It's just, in today's world especially, and it's just a horrible situation. Just where people are like vultures, just tearing strips off of people. That's the way I see it.
Oh, totally. It's that's why it's one of those things that I find, I look around and I'm seeing it all the time, and I just thought I'd bring it up on topic because I don't really know it's not a solution, but something I can contribute towards the cause. Hey, MacTavish, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us. One of my things that I was going to go to the course is we're now going to start looking across the mainstream media which we should have been doing anyway, but looking across the mainstream media outlets and finding out how they're wording this stuff up. Because they're using like this NLP, they're hijacking language, they're putting words where words weren't. Example, Brexit, leave is actually now crash out, etc., etc. It's just endless amounts of stuff that's going on. And you have these busy people at work that don't have time to dig in. They just don't. They need to go to a trusted source. So I think there needs to be, I'm thinking about starting like, maybe not a directory, but like a trusted, so if they trust what that comes from us, I think we're going to start doing friends of Sunday Long Live, so people can check them out. I know you've got your own ones as well, but it might be a little bit different from that, but it's maybe an idea. So solutions, has anybody got, you can jump in there. Nan, what about you? Can you see any simple advice to pass on to a 9 till 5er or 8 till 6 or 7 till 7er on how to spot propaganda?
Yeah, well, I think if you try and take a look at what's not being written as well. So first of all, you have to take a look at the mainstream and see what they're. Then ask yourself, what are they not covering as well? Which is obviously the opposite of what they're covering. So always keep in mind that there's two sides to every story. And just keep in mind as well that a lot of the time it's an agenda that they're following. So if you only tell one side of the story, you're going to end up with a biased opinion. And the other thing as well is that the spin doctors, they all have these so-called fact checkers, but the fact checkers themselves, like the mainstream media, are well advanced in spinning the narrative. So I suppose just be aware that the narrative is being spun and keep an open mind as to what's not being covered. I mean, we are not getting a lot of information.
Oh, God, no, I know.
May I jump in?
Yeah, go on, Val.
Okay. One of the things is we used to have in America here the Smith-Mundt Act, which would protect, us. We would know because there were laws in place against propaganda and brainwashing. Well, Obama took that away and he weaponized it, and it's actually in the it's in a bill, militarized. They weaponized the media against us, and that you can look up. I mean, there's a fact. So now we know for a fact that the mainstream media is being weaponized against us. And also they changed the title of the media. It's no longer saying it's the news. They're under a heading of what is it again? It's not even called news, so they get away with that. I can't remember the exact title right now. For some reason, it's however, you can't sue them because they changed the title. It's not news anymore. So they protect themselves by changing the laws to fit and benefit them, and they weaponize things to use against us. And this is what's gone on. And you do have to do, unfortunately, some research to find out. And all you can say really is not even to trust what they're saying, because they've given themselves the legal right to lie and propagandize and use brainwashing techniques on the American people here.
Oh, I think that's going on. Go on.
Oh, sorry, Ria. I was just going to add to that a classic example that's just happened in the UK recently. I've been collecting a few stories about it, and it's the Integrity Initiative, which is exactly that. It's a propaganda outfit that is influencing media all over Europe. It's based in Scotland in an inconspicuous place, and basically that's what it is. One of their policies is to teach 8-year-olds to be pro-government, and then there's the smear campaign smearing people in Spain and all over Europe and the UK, and they've been totally outed. The only ones that are really covering it are like Sputnik and RT. The mainstream media has been silent on it, absolutely silent, and they've been caught red-handed doing propaganda, proper propaganda. And, it's just, that's a big red pill. It's a big, hello everybody, look at this. They're lying to you. They're trying to teach your kids to do this and to do that. Wake up.
Okay, I didn't really. Someone jump in there.
Can I interject a little bit? There's also another thing that I think is really strange with speech, which I've noticed. Boris Johnson brought it in. It might have been Cameron, I don't know. Water cannons became water cannon, and people became peoples. Now, I think an individual person is called a person, and a collective is called people. What are peoples? Can anyone explain to me what are peoples? I don't know.
No, nor do I. It's just people, aren't they? I don't know. Again, they're manipulating language. We're going to be really sort of chasing this down, tuning it in on Sunday Long Live. So when we get to that kind of wording, because they're just at it everywhere. And I think the reason there is so much of it is because they see just how successful it is. It's just everywhere you go, they're altering the language. These youngsters are picking up on it. And that's another thing, whilst anybody's out there, we're looking for like the young end of a show host with plenty of spirit, maybe just out of uni or whatever. So if you know anybody, get in touch with me. That would be quite cool as well. And we're looking for a couple of vets to come on as well, which we're also chasing down. Let's go to someone else. Fred, your views on this?
You just watch CNN and just about wants to make you puke because of the misinformation all the time. I watched a speech from Donald J. Trump there last night, and you go to CNN, and it just, that's not what he said. What's the matter with you people? Same on our news with the Yellow Vest. Now they're trying to say there's communists and there's bad people that are aligned with the Yellow Vest, and it's a bull-faced lie. We know that, but that's the news. And the average person sees the news and tends to trust it. And that is what we're fighting.
Well, it's a good comment. Ed, your thoughts?
Oh, wow. What's the question again?
We're just looking into how to find simple solutions. If you was passing someone and you wanted to get something across of, wait a minute, a lot of what you're hearing but they're portraying as true isn't true. Any simple solutions to pass over to people?
Well, if you there's a lot of people that are actually doing live streams or recorded messages, and they're actually disseminating what actually happened. And there's a lot of that going on YouTube and on Facebook. Unfortunately, on Facebook, if what you're saying is against the government narrative, they're going to take you down pretty quick, regardless of what you say, and you go to Facebook jail, per se. YouTube, it hasn't gotten too bad yet, but they are deplatforming. People using Twitter, people jump on Twitter, they say, here's a news story, but this is what actually happened. So follow people. Faith Goldie's a good one here in Canada. She's getting attacked all the time, and she fights stories with actual truth. So, alternate media on the internet, it's worth taking a look at. And don't just trust one source. Go to a few. The information is out there. We just got to look at it. And if it doesn't smell right, take a deep look. Do some research.
Absolutely. Go on, carry on.
About the live streaming, this is really the most important way that we can counter the mainstream media, because if you're live streaming, and this is something I've been doing since 2012, I was one of the original Occupy News Network live streamers. If you're live streaming and you've got getting people commenting at an event faked, you can answer questions from someone. Yes, this is an event about so-and-so, and I'm going to ask someone and see what they feel about it. Around the world, an example, I was at a child abuse rally back in 2015 outside Downing Street, and one of the survivors, Russell Burton, gave a very impassioned speech about Mr. Cameron, and this speech was copied from my feed and on YouTube before I got home. Such a wow piece of oratory. It was actually up on YouTube and circulating before I'd even got home, and I was able to do it for myself. And that's the sort of viral nature of, you put stuff out on the internet. If it's good, if it's catching, like for example, a lot of the Gilets Jaunes things. Every time a policeman beats up someone in a wheelchair, or draws his gun, or anything like that, it's all over the place. There was a piece it was a couple of weeks ago now, where the police let down the tyres on someone's electric wheelchair. There was protesting. Absolutely despicable. How is that keeping the law?
Oh, that's a great question. Who else have we heard from on this? I think that's a lot of everybody. Anybody else want to weigh in on this one?
Yeah, I'd just like to remark as well that a lot of people are actual video and real life stuff they're involved in, because they know that the video camera doesn't lie.
So basically, it's kind of adding up to we need to. Well, I say in my opinion, it's adding up to we need to make sure that we safeguard the freedom of speech, because when you think about it, pre-internet, we just had the mainstream news or the gossip down the pub or wherever you went, wasn't it? Well, if we can manage to maintain and still keep the word going out there, that seems, even after this discussion, seems even more valuable than maybe previously thought, because if it wasn't for us guys, the little guys doing our thing and trying to get it out there, then we would just be left with mainstream media, and the new rules come in. What's the date today? We've got a couple of weeks before the new regulations come in on Google, because they're changing the way it works. I'm just going to digress on that. Nan, you had a look at that Google stuff. What does that look like to you? Because they're changing the terms and conditions, aren't they?
Yeah, on the 22nd of January, the terms of YouTube are changing. Originally, we thought that it was going to be more severe than it actually was. After I got the reassurance that it wasn't quite as severe as we originally, I sort of backed off and didn't investigate any further. However, there are many of us who are saving stuff offline at this stage now because obviously YouTube have crossed a red line with many people. With banning the censorship is massive. The same with Facebook and Google and all of those, trying to shut down bodies of work. Some people have like maybe 100,000 subscribers and they just literally wipe the channel for some minor infraction. So, and then you have all these say on Twitter with these blue tick accounts that are allowed to say absolutely anything they want. So the YouTube, Twitter and Google, just to be aware, I suppose the terms are changing. I wish I knew more about it, Ria, to be honest with you.
Maybe there's something we need to really go into. Well, it probably is something we really need to go into, but it goes up the queue of priority because this thing is coming. So on the 22nd of January, if we go missing, you will still probably find us on D Live because they're good guys, and you'll find us on the radio stations as well. So any thoughts on, because there's a few Brits in the crowd here today in the panel, your views on, do you see many changes coming? Because Google, I mean, you do what the big guys do, right? And Google are changing the T's and C's on the 22nd of January. Has anybody in the panel got any views on what we think is going to follow this? And I'm not...
Can someone please expand on what the actual change is? Has anyone actually read what they're proposing?
What is
we posted it here and we did have a look at it, and some of the guys that are more knowledgeable than I am had a look at it as well. So they're not going to wipe us out yet, but as Ria said, we probably do need to pay that a bit of attention and come back with some facts.
It's regarding articles. Go on, Ed.
Sorry, just specifically, what specifically are they claiming that they're going to be doing on the 22nd of January? And is it worldwide or is it just in the UK?
It's worldwide.
And it's I'm just going to jump in there. It's to do with Article 11, 12, 12A and 13 of the new EU ruling regarding copyrights. So, you've probably heard stories about link tax. So if you click a link, you can get billed for it. So basically, the way it works at the minute, and we do on a regular basis, is people dump a URL. We click that URL and that takes us to a story, a video, a something. Well, it's what the EU is doing in Article 13, which I don't know yet because it's only an outline, is if you click that link, it's either A, not going to work, or B, you're going to get a bill because you're going to have to buy a license to use that URL. So companies like Google and everything are changing the terms of conditions on the 22nd of January. They did a big notification, actually. Oh, I've got the link, and they're trying to cater for what they think the EU is going to do. So with that, it's going to affect everybody in Europe and maybe even worldwide, because there's going to be certain videos, outlets, expressions online that just won't make it out of the EU. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
I don't think they're going to be able to control the URLs from all around the world. And I think this is global. It is global. Nobody believes the mainstream media. And I think they've lost it. They've lost it. And the fact that we are here talking today proves they've lost it. It's impossible. They are not going to be able to stop anybody, because there's the information, unless they shut down the whole internet. And if they shut down the whole internet, everybody's going to die, aren't they? Because everybody relies on the internet. They can do it. So they can't control it. There is no way they can control it.
Well,
go on, Ria.
They can blanket off Europe. They can put a firewall around it. So, whilst I hear, you can't control the world of the internet and everything, they can actually firewall a country or a region. I mean, China do it. So it can be done. And there was a push last year as well to firewall the UK by the GCHQ and everything to make it safe. So you can, I think it's physically possible to actually close the thing off and you close it inside. Akakashi says it's not impossible in the chat. I think they can do this. And the talk is, and it's just talk, that Europe will just be blind. It will just go dark. Let's go over. Nanon, your thoughts?
I was just reading an article there on it, Ria, about this new directive, how they're trying to make the service providers liable for the content that they carry, which obviously we know the service providers are not going to carry the can for that. So they're going to marshal individuals. And once again, that's another thing we probably need to include in our fact checking, is the Article 11 and Article 13.
Oh yeah, for sure. Who's here? Susie Lady. Hey Susie Lady, how are you doing? Subject we started off with, the main headline was accusation replacing evidence, and accusation dressing up as evidence, and how much does accusation sway the world in the clothing of evidence? How often does it go on? We've been through a series of questions, and if you are just joining us as well, this is Ria Bow on Long Live Radio. We've got the panel in from various different parts, mainly UK in today. We've got the US, we've got US, Canada, Ireland and the UK in. And Australia, we've got a Brit down in Oz as well. So accusation dressing up as evidence and swaying public opinion. It's been going on a long time, but I think since the age of the internet it's been going on more and more. So that's what we're talking about, if that helps Susie and anybody just joining us. And as far as the EU is concerned, if Google have gone out their way and done this huge change in the terms of service, that means something big is coming along for the 22nd. We need to check this out, and I'm sure it's something that we'll probably need to look into as well, because it will affect you all. I just see that day coming where you go somewhere and it's not there anymore. And that's why I've been setting up the contingencies this end as well. We've got a contingency for our chat room, and we've got a contingency for the big players on video platforms. And that is why I'm pushing into the radio stations, because they're well below the radar. Don't forget the new hashtag while I'm on about it as well. Hashtag GAG. Girls Against Globalism. If you feel it's appropriate, the two hashtags that go together are hashtag Sunday Long Live. Just underneath it, put hashtag GAG, because we're doing Girls Against Globalism, and there's going to be a meeting in the chat room chaired by our lovely Carnelian or Joy. And that's on the 15th. So get in our chat room. The admin will drop the link into the chat room, or you can just go to our website and you can get in the chat room from there if you're not already in there, and if it's that kind of thing. But we'll keep you up to date on the website. So anybody know anything anymore about, do you feel skip to me, well, right, okay, do you feel that because Google have done this huge change in terms of service on the 22nd, this is a response to the EU? Scotty, your thoughts? Oh, you said, oh right, okay, you're not around. Okay, someone in the UK. No, let's go Valsu outside the UK. Your thoughts on that?
I don't really have a whole lot to say on that, but we definitely need some sort of plan, to effectively fight back and use their weapon against them. There was a man on, he's been on several live streams, and his name is Michael McKibben, and he had his patent stolen from him, and it was for like social media. He created social media years ago, and he applied for the patent. Everything was going through legally. The lawyer stopped it. He didn't pursue any further because who intercepted? The CIA. And so they've used social media as a weapon against us, and they stole his patent. And they put these front men in like Zuckerberg that claims to have said, you know, I've made Facebook, but that's not true. It's not true at all. And there is a lawsuit going up against him. So we're hoping to get some sort of an internet bill of rights, possibly, but they are being sued. But you don't hear that on the media. But there is a lawsuit. You can look up Michael McKibben and you can read the whole story and what's going on.
Okay, no worries. Anybody want to jump in on that?
Yes, this new EU copyright nonsense is just ACTA reincarnated, basically. I was the organiser of the London anti-ACTA marches back in 2012. This was part of a Europe-wide push with colossal marches in every European country. It was a huge effort. And that managed to get the European Parliament to refuse to ratify an international treaty, which was the first time they ever did that. What is going to be needed is the same thing, maybe even larger scale, massive social pushback in the real world against this absolute outrage to the internet.
Absolutely.
We've got to push again.
Martin, you've been on top of this. Let me ask you a couple of questions while you're there, Martin. You've been on the ground covering protests but you've been at this a while, haven't you? I know we've only just met. Martin's been with us about, I don't know, a week or something. I'm losing track of the days. What have you seen escalate? So you've been on the ground. You've been like on the ground covering it. Do you still see value in live streams that aren't on the ground?
Yes, it's very important to you can collate stuff that's people are collecting. Doing on thing is about rummaging for stuff that's out there on the internet and putting it together and correlating stuff, which is a lot of value in that. Still do useful work if you're not on the ground, but as I was saying earlier, what they really hate is the ability for smartphones to record video. This is part of the surveillance state, but they couldn't just make it ultra secret because the people making the equipment would have twigged that, hey, this stuff is just used for bad things. We'll refuse to make it or we'll sabotage it or something. It had to be dual use. They had to make this stuff people that buy it as well. So your phone, yes, can maybe spy on you. But and these things like Alexa certainly can spy on you. These things that listen to you all the time, very, very creepy that is. But they're all dual use because people have got to accept that, yay, this is technology, this is useful stuff, and because these phones, these things are capable of now taking virtually television quality broadcast video for hours. In fact, the Periscope broadcast of the UK Brexit march on Saturday, that went on for about 7 hours. The guy that was doing it was saying, I haven't got much battery left, but the battery was wonderful because it lasted 7 hours. That's better than I managed to do when I was doing it, so technology has improved enormously in the last few years.
Well,
and the point, it's very important that people on the ground are there capturing history. It can't be spun. If it's live, you can't have the spin doctors just taking a little bit, re-editing it, distorting it, classic, just trying to make it fit the narrative. You can't do any of that if you've got, and especially if it's multiple points of view on the ground. Something like the Brexit marches and the yellow vests, one of the things you see in the pictures of it is so many people are holding their mobile phones up. All of these are either broadcasting video or at least recording video and recording pictures. And this is all evidence. This is all evidence of what's actually happening. And so that's what they absolutely hate. They had to make these things dual use. because they wouldn't have got away with making them otherwise. And that dual use is coming out to bite them in the bum really, really badly. Surveillance state works best for we the people because we have far, far, far more eyeballs than they do.
That's a good point. So I've covered that before as well. That's a good thing to remember, that term, dual use. It can work both ways. And another thing I'm picking up as well that I'm remembering, if someone asked me what I remembered about today's chat, it would be, don't forget your device is dual use. They can not only listen to you and watch you, you can listen to them and watch them. So I think there's a lot of great points there, Martin. Thank you. And what Ed said earlier about quick advice to somebody. Maybe you don't know them. You can't just go, hey, darling, here's a red pill. That's not going to work, you know. So, but what you can say is, you know, how many news sources do you view? And if say, well, you've got to view more than that because there's more than one side to a story. Do you agree with that? And they probably agree with you. So, well, therefore, you need to look at one more news source, don't you? And that might begin the process of people researching, checking stuff out. But on that note that Martin just said about when you look at Martin's on about the Brexit march, but when we cover the Tommy Robinson marches, we cover the Brexit march as well. You see, how many cameras do you see? How many cameras do you see? Hey, Jerry, thanks for joining us. Elizabeth, anybody out? If I've missed you out, come say hello so I can say hello. Where is that footage? We need to collate that footage. Right, any views on this? Let's go over. Who haven't we heard from? Let's go, Fred.
Yes, you can see that with the cell phones. Everybody and their dog has a cell phone. There's lots of footage. It's a matter of collecting it and where to send it so they can collect it. But you got to remember, too, the EU is terrified of Brexit because of the snowball effect. Once England leaves the EU, everybody else is going to leave, and that's a good thing because right after that, they can skid the UN, which is a terrible organization. Does nothing good for anyone.
Oh, no, totally. The last thing they want is a competitor next door to it. Oh, God, the Brexit thing, that's just like the biggest rabbit hole. Ed, your thoughts on this, my darling?
Yeah, who's pushing this? Who's pushing this agenda? Okay, we know it's through the EU, but who's pushing the EU's buttons? I think it's slowly becoming obvious that the people that are elected in the EU are not looking out for the best interests of the countries or the people that they're supposed to represent. That's becoming slowly obvious, is it not? Can we get some agreement on this?
Yeah, well, what I think is that sorry, this has led to a lot of citizen journalism where people are going out with those phones and they're trying to cover stories that are not being covered. So it's so important for us to cover those stories, which is why we're here tonight, I suppose, to get the conversation going about people who might hold a different view, to look at what's not being covered. Because the investigative journalists are non-existent. They're either gagged in their own organizations or they're being held back at the top. So it looks as if with Article 13 and Article 11 and the censorship that's going on is that the whole space is being closed down even further. So we can't rely anymore on the journalists that we are supposed to trust to do any form of investigation because they themselves suffer terrible consequences when they try to cover stories, the opposite end of stories. And most of the stories at the moment as well, you were asking a question earlier on there, Ria, how to spot this is if you see a lot of emotional language as well, baby, anything got to do with I was trying to cover that story we had in Ireland about the emotional abuse thing. I'm not sort of saying no to it, but I'm just saying the way it's done. It's also the same with the migration crisis. They're called refugees one minute, they're migrants the next minute. There's immigration programs being called all different things. NGOs pushing, leading the narrative. And the people are so confused. I'm not surprised people are suffering terribly with trying to find out what on earth is going on. because we cannot rely anymore on the mainstream media. I've just got a bit there on Article 11 and 13 for clarification, if anybody wants it.
Okay, I'll jump in. That's brilliant, guys. So there's a nice one, isn't there? If you're reading a headline and it's sensational or emotional, it's you need to take that into account. I think that's really good. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Yeah, I would just like to something that I think is very coincidental is the fact that there's such a big anti-Russian sentiment in the UK, a little bit in Europe, but more in the UK. And strangely, the two of the media outlets, the UK, RT and Sputnik. Now, yes, they're Russian, but these stories that RT write, if you look into them, they do have links, or you can do a little bit of research. And yeah, it turns out what they come out with is the other side, or a more neutral point of view. So, yeah, it's kind of like whatever the mainstream media is telling you not to do it just to make sure.
Okay, there's a bit of cut. Go on.
I remembered the name, the title that they go under in America now. It's infotainment. It's not news. So therefore, you can't sue them because they're not held accountable anymore. And like I said, they took away the Smith-Mundt Act, and then they militarized the news, which is not news, to propagandize and brainwash. They made it legal to propagandize and use the media as a weapon to brainwash us, which used to be illegal. And the only time in history they would use propaganda and brainwashing was when you were at war with another country. That was the only time you were allowed to do that in all of history. But it's no longer that way, which should be pretty scary to people, and it should wake them up. And another thing, what we could do, for example, you look back in history at patterns, and I'll give you one example with Russia, for instance. First of all, they're no longer communist, and back when John F. Kennedy was president and he was working a little bit, talking to Russia and trying to work things out, they put posters up, like wanted posters, saying that he was wanted for treason and that he was, pretty much the same argument that they are going and attacking Trump with today. So look back and see the pattern. They don't want us to get along. Why? Because it's a very powerful country, and the more strong allies we have, it makes us stronger against them. And another thing is too, to always go on these websites. Yes, they make themselves look like they're humanitarian. I'm talking about the UN per se. They have so many different organizations under the UN. But number one, if you look up who created the UN and how it was created, and then also look at the stories through the years, and it's suppressed a lot, but the UN goes into a country after some disaster, pretending to be humanitarian aid, and what do? Yeah, they might do a little bit of good, but what they really do is a lot of bad. They're part of the human trafficking system and the pedophile system, and people have to start looking into it because it's out there. You can get all kinds of stories. And when you do go on the UN, read between the lines. They're pushing buzzwords. The buzzwords are the green agenda, which is a fallacy, and they're pushing that agenda for their narrative for the New World Order. And they're pushing global governance. What does that tell you? Just in the word itself, governance. It's like, they're going to completely control you, and it's going to be global. That's what they want. So you got to really, really do some research to find out these things.
Anybody want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'd like to come in. One thing you mentioned, they could firewall the whole country. Yeah, they can try, but you've got different technologies. You got encryption, the amount of physical people it's going to take, and what do they call it? Scripts they got to run to monitor all this. It's a huge investment, and you got to take pride in the innovation of Western people that live in the West. There's a lot of really intelligent people out there, and they're going to find a way to get around this. Maybe it'll be through the blockchain technology and using encryption or some other form of a possible side web or going down on the dark web. There's also satellite technology that's being launched in the near future. You've got satellite technology already right now. Now, if they block out, if they firewall the whole country, how can they control everyone that's inside that country? In the UK, you've already got a lot of people doing this, and the audiences are local. Got to have a lot of faith in all those bright people we have in our Western countries. I can't see them shutting it down for too long before something else comes up. And then you've got alternate medias that are starting up, like MeWe, another big one that's going to be hitting the world stage in Western countries in the next 6 months is called Synthesis Social, where it's a paid subscription and there's no censorship whatsoever. So these are all options that are starting to crop up to fight this censorship and control. And do you think Trump is going to put up with this for much longer? He wants the truth to get out.
Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah. There is no satellite technology that is going to take out anything of any of us. You're being told a load of rubbish. Do you really believe that satellites are going to take over the world? And it's not going to happen, is it? It is not going to happen. You've just got to look at the people, right? We're all people. We all work. We're the people that put the money in their pockets. Yeah, they're not taking over with satellites or anything. Do you think they are? Do you really think they are? Do you really think they've got that technology to do it? Yeah, they can take down the internet. Are they going to stop the people? I don't think so. They haven't got anything because we pay for it. We pay for every single thing they do, right? And if you believe in whatever, you believe, if you really believe, take us down, the big people, the Illuminati or whatever, who's paying them? Because we're not. It doesn't exist. We do not believe it. It's that simple. So go away. And it is that simple. Go away. We don't believe you. It is not working. It can't work. How can it work? Do you really believe? I don't know. Do you really believe that anyone is in control of you? And if you believe that somebody's in control of you, we're all born naked. We are all born naked on this planet, and we all die the same way. There's nobody runs anybody. And you've got to stand up to say, well, no, sorry, I'm not having it. And that is what you have to do. I don't know. I've had a couple of beers, but that's my view.
Okay, we're going to stop you there because you just come in. All right, lovely, Andy. Thank you. Anybody else want to jump in? They can firewall it. I'm pretty sure they can firewall it. And I think what Ed says is has a value, you know. There are some bright minds out there, but if you suddenly went to the internet and you went, right, Discord isn't working, YouTube isn't working, Facebook is blah blah blah, how are you going to get in touch with people to rally everybody? Just a thought, Martin.
Yeah, shutting down the internet is not exactly a very easy thing to do, because the internet was designed in the first place. This is back in the 60s to survive nuclear war, and it's grown millions of times larger since then. There are so many interconnections, so many different submarine cables between different countries and things that for any particular government, individual countries, like there was a coup in Gabon, or attempted coup in Gabon the other day, and the country was off the internet for a while. So some small country, yes, they can isolate from the internet, but that does tremendous damage to their infrastructure, their ability to trade and everything. They can't just keep it up time. But to sort of shut down the whole internet and to shut down all of Europe, it would be a World War III scenario to do that, to even think of doing that. They just can't do it. And you would also need the cooperation of all the people involved in running the internet. Are they all going to sing the tune of the EU? A lot of these people are libertarians. They just these open source guys. I'm one of them. They're just not going to want to cooperate with doing such a draconian thing. Drag their feet every single chance they can get.
If they shut down the internet, what could you do? If they shut down our talk today, what we're doing now, talking to each other, and they can shut it down, what would we be able to do? How can we communicate? And that's what we need to look at, because they can shut it down, because they created it and they can shut it down. It's that simple. How do we communicate?
The internet's not owned by any one person. The infrastructure isn't owned by any one company. It's owned by thousands, tens of thousands of different organizations and companies. As I said, there's so many undersea cables, which is the sort of the main arteries of the internet between countries. There are thousands and thousands of them. So it's not just a matter of, I'm going to pull that cable, the cable out of the wall there, and that's it. That's America isolated from everybody else. It doesn't work that way. Make such a number of changes to start to enable that to happen.
I absolutely agree with you, and you can't. You'd have to get ships pulling up cables, but it's simple. It is simple. If they wanted to shut it down with an EMP or whatever, they can close it down. Don't think they can't. It is simple to close down, and they can do. We're here to be here, and they could do it. And what do you think that they couldn't do to stop it?
If it was an EMP, that's really an act of war, isn't it? That's serious trouble. The world would be in very, very serious trouble if someone did that sort of level of aggression on the streets with guns. Those of us that can have guns.
But people.
The thing to not confuse is shutting down the internet, which is the infrastructure. Shutting down, say, Google or Facebook or YouTube. These could be shut down because they're under control of a single company. If YouTube wanted to stop business tomorrow and turned all their servers off, they could. Of course, they could. Be suicidal for their business, but if that was not their motivation, if their motivation was that this has become more harm to us than good, and we will pull the plug and we will delete everything on all of our servers, we will throw all the disks and all the servers into the trash and just destroy everything, because that's one company.
Yeah, but do you not think that
hobbies?
Do you not think that Google, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, they're all deplatforming people that have a voice? So they're doing it on an individual basis. It all done on algorithms. Anybody that has a voice, I don't have a voice. I'm just a little man from Stockport, but they can take down anybody they want, and they are doing. They're taking them down. And what do you think? What is your? I'll ask. What is your defense against that? What can you do to stop that? Because I don't believe that we have any defense at the moment to stop that. What is your defense? What's your view on that?
Well,
Sorry, Martin, go ahead.
the thing is, you've got to separate the internet, which is the sum of the whole, from these individual companies. Yes, they're very large parts of the internet, but they're not the internet. We can choose alternative platforms. People start using different things. Is to Facebook and Twitter that was started up because of exactly this sort of censorship, and there's loads of different platforms that people are starting all the time, and it's just educating people to not just use the platforms huge players, because if you just use those platforms, and if your content is only on those platforms, then they've got you by the short and curlies. If you've got your content safe and you can put your content on multiple platforms, over you can put your content on YouTube. If YouTube decides to delete it one day, so well, that's it. Just go elsewhere. Just tell people to go to whatever else you have as a backup. We need to get people away from this idea that the internet is Google, it is YouTube, it is Twitter, it is Facebook. It's not. These are just corporations. These are not the internet. The internet is this great humankind.
I'll put another question to you. We are speaking now over Wi-Fi technology. If they decide to take down Wi-Fi, how am I going to be able to talk to you without Wi-Fi technology? Because they control the Wi-Fi technology. That is how we're communicating, right? So it is controlled. How are we going to communicate with each other without this technology that they're allowing us to have? It's a bit of cheese. They're giving us a bit of cheese, right? We're allowed to talk to each other. Explain it. How are we to speak to each other? Go on, Ria. Go on.
Sure. Yeah, I think you have to understand that I have my own Wi-Fi at home. So how are they going to control that? Like you said, through the ISP, your provider, they can shut that down. But I was thinking what if a solution could be that this is kind of like you'd have to have some really smart people build this, but build a Wi-Fi system that could relay off of other people's Wi-Fis and bypass the ISP, like the old radio days when you could submit. Yeah, but what's the distance, and can it relay to, like, say my Wi-Fi jumped to somebody else's house, and how far we could only go? We probably couldn't go across the water, or maybe using other kinds of frequencies to get over large oceans. But if somehow your own computer could be your own platform, and somehow that new network can bypass the ISPs, that would be something.
Or you could use a combo of Wi-Fi relays and old-style ham radio.
There's already exists the technology where internet can be passed through high tension power cables. The fact that it's not being used much, or it's gone out of style, so people don't really use it much, but it does exist. and we may be using it and not even know it. And second thing is, I got to have a lot of faith in the people that are out there, the techies. They figure it out pretty quick. And what's to stop us to going back to, say, 14,000 baud dial-up internet? I'm sure those servers are still out there, getting dusty, but they're still out there.
That's true.
Actually, high-speed modems wouldn't work too well because the old style has been replaced by fully digital infrastructure now, so that wouldn't work very well, I'm afraid. You can run Wi-Fi in a grid. There was a very old project back in the 90s called One Laptop Per Child, which is basically an idea of low-cost laptops for use in developing countries, and they worked as a grid. Basically, each laptop would talk to other laptops, so they could be just used where there wasn't any other infrastructure, and all feed off the teachers, one with a lesson plan in it, and all the laptops would work from that. So running Wi-Fi as a grid is quite a well-established technology and can be done. It's just that we don't really have the need for it when everybody has their own Wi-Fi at home connected to the internet directly. So this is still technology that's there. It's been there for a long time.
They could shut her down, and we could try to go back to emails like it was in the beginning. There's CB radios, there's ham radios. Ham radios are worldwide. Still, it's a real major pain in the butt, but there's always some way of communicating. And the ham radio, talked to a lot of people. I have one, and there are a lot of people are just checking that out.
Yeah, I've got transatlantic pigeons. Ooh, big birds. Oh yeah,
They can't really pull a plug, though. We're talking about taking down the banking systems. They're going to pull down all the email. There's businesses that send data across the internet. Like, you're talking Armageddon here almost. I don't think it's possible to pull it down completely. And how do you differentiate between people look at all the voice over internet protocol that's being used for telephone systems. And these are corporations that are using this. They can't pull it down. Can't see it happening.
They would have. Sorry. Go ahead, Nana.
No, I was just going to say about what Martin said earlier on, that Google is not the internet, neither is Facebook the internet. These are corporations. So the whole thing is evolving, I think, where there's multiple platforms. The tech guys are out there creating other alternatives. The Internet Bill of Rights people, even though they were working furiously on trying to get some type of internet bill of rights to protect the privacy of the actual people, humanity, you might add. You might say just general to protect people's privacy. I think that what's happened is some of these corporations have overstepped the mark seriously by gathering people's data, the surveillance aspect of all of these communication methods. And we should hope that rather than pull the plug on an amazing piece of development in communications that we've had, that they allow us to speak, that they allow us to express ourselves and stop all this censorship and this control and that we see coming from the corporation. And that's the globalist aspect of this thing, I think. It kicks into that aspect where they just want to get to the stage where they want to, the control aspect is so attractive to them, and the greed and the money then flows towards that control. So I think that maybe if things go well for us, some sort of ethics might come back into it again and go back to the magnificence of the technology itself, rather than trying to shut the general population out of general speaking. Okay, back to the panel.
Yeah, I would just like to mention several months back last year, there was something called Internet Bill of Rights that was drafted by members of a few servers on Discord, and it was based on the American Bill of Rights, but it was regarding the internet and all this trouble we're going through, shadow banning, free speech, everything. And I think it was initially it's a very good idea and could be adopted by every country, of course, because every country has their equivalent of the Bill of Rights or Magna Carta or whatever. And that would be a better way to run the internet as such, having a kind of common law for the internet.
I find that really scary. Go on, Kimber Cat, go on.
Sorry, I was going to add a bit earlier that you guys were talking about the case scenario where they would want to shut down everything. I think how it would go is the banks would basically declare that you cannot use cash. They would reboot everything, and as soon as everything comes back up and you have access to your bank accounts, they would declare electronic only transactions and would basically force the businesses to do the same. I think that would be how they would be able to do that. How do you bypass that is a thought.
Oh, technocracy is a massive issue. I've been reporting on it since the early days. We're in it, guys. We're just slowly, it creeps into our lives where credit card payment systems over the internet are becoming the purveyors of morals, what you shouldn't spend your money on. It's coming, and the one thing we can't let it do is go cashless, but I'm not going to go off on cashless. Any other thoughts on this topic, the panel?
Well, I'll tell you something now. I've got a Polycat. We've got two cats. Polycat. Twice this week, it's cost me £74. They wouldn't take cash because they don't want to have cash on the premises in case you get robbed. So it had to be basically I had to pay on my card. Right. So I've got to pay from my card to look after my cat. They wouldn't take cash because they said to me, "You can't. We don't want cash on the premises." What is it about? What is it about? All I want to do is look after my cats, and all of a sudden, you can't pay money, right? Money, wedge, £100 or whatever, £200. No, you got to pay it off your card, and no, they won't accept it. So I've got a Polycat. and I have to pay it off my card, it has to go through a card transaction. And I think that people need to wake up. They need to wake up. I'm sorry, but the way I grew up is pound sterling is pound sterling and pence is our currency, not plastic. But I cannot get my cat. I can't pay for my cat with pound sterling. I have to pay for it with plastic, and it's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. Anyone have a comment on that?
Well,
yes. Sorry. I don't know if you're out of time, but I do have a quick comment, and that is that, one, they need the internet as well, so they can't take that down because they have to have their transactions and communications. Also, the other is, if you want to know what their agenda is, just look to the country Estonia and look at what they're doing. And they're really controlling everyone. And you have to have a special card, and that card has total control over everything. You can't live there without that card. I don't want to get into that because it's way off topic, but just putting it out there.
Well, no, it's not off topic, is it? We're going on to cash. Actually, cash isn't any good anymore. I mean, when you look at a £20 note, this is £20 notes of sterling, and it says on it, "I promise to pay the bearer." Yeah, promise to pay the bearer. But they don't even accept. At a vet, I'm trying to look after me cat. I'm an animal lover. I am an animal lover. To be honest with you, I put animals above human beings because I think most human beings in this world are horrible. If I ever come back, I want to come back as an animal because I don't want to come back as a human being. But no, they're not going to take cash. They won't take cash. I've got cash in my hand. Oh no, we can't take cash because we don't want to accept cash on the premises. Well, I'm sorry, but plastic is not the currency that I was brought up with, and now, and the reason they're doing it is because every single cash payment they have to look at it. Yeah, it all has to be automated. You can't do a cash payment. You can't say, "Oh, here, pal, do you want to clean my windows? I'll give you 20 quid to clean my windows on my house or whatever. Valet my card." No, it all has to be cash payment, and this is total control and total.
All right, let me jump in there, Stockport. Okay, it's all done. All right, guys, we're going to start throwing it around for some final comments and start doing the closeouts, Anybody want to take some final... give us what you want to share with the people because we're on live right now, right? And I'm trying to clear someone in the server. Let's go from top to bottom with your finals and get this thing wrapped up. Ed, what would you like to pass on to anybody listening?
Well, as far as this control of money goes, you got to remember during the last Second World War, and probably around a lot of wars where banks are destroyed and money is taken out of the system completely, people went back to the barter system. And they made it work back then. It wasn't pretty, but we could be looking at that again. Just a thought.
I'm doing other stuff here as well. And Fred, what do you want to pass on as your final comments?
Well, hey, final comment. Ham radio, eBay, $60 to $100 Canadian, cheap like borscht. Get them while they're hot and could make a difference. End of world scenario. I'm done.
Proper prepper stuff there from Fred. Kimber Cats.
I came in late on the show, but I just don't have too much comment because I came in late. I missed some of it. I apologize. But just hello from the States.
Oh, that's okay. That's your final comments. Drop in another time, darling. Martin, final comments.
Yeah, I'd agree with the ham radio. I used to own a CB set in my youth, about 40 years ago now. So, yeah, it was good fun then. You probably pick them up if you can still pick them up; they'd still work. So it's good as a fallback for talking to people within a few miles radius, because that's all it's good for. The old CB sets is a bit more of a specialised thing. You need to have a license for it and all that, but. If you're into ham radio, that's always also useful. Anyone can use. So pick up your CB gear. At least you can talk to people in a few miles radius of you. It's better than nothing.
Okay, Nanon, your finals.
Yeah, just I suppose to go back over what we were saying there, that all of these facilities that we have are all good in themselves. But what is very sinister is how they're used, like the social credit system in China. People may have looked into that, where if you've been what they consider to be bulled, then they may put restrictions on you with regard to cards and travel and stuff like that. And Valsu's example as well. So all of the technologies, like the cards, are very handy, but when they're used in such a way with the control factor on them, then it becomes nefarious. So let's hope we can get back to a more free society.
Oh, absolutely. Amen to that. And Stockport.
I would say, hello. I would say Bradbury Pounds, the credit-based money which funded us through the First World, not a debt-based money, credit-based money. The Bradbury Pound. If it wasn't for the Bradbury Pound, we would not be here today. And people need to look at the Bradbury Pound. It is a credit-based currency, not a debt-based currency. Thank you very much, Rhea.
You're welcome, darling. Val, finals.
Yeah, we're working to get the gold back standard right now in America, and working towards taking down the Federal Reserve and restructurizing it as well, which is owned by the Rothschilds. So I think a lot of that's going to go away, but we can never become complacent. We must always keep our eyes sharp and minds sharp, and teach our children what is going on so that they know what to look for and they can properly fight back like we are.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Scotty.
Well, don't really want to end in a dystopian view. But yeah, I suppose it makes everybody think, and I hope it makes everybody think out there, that if something happens, what would you do? So if that gets out there, at least that's something. But yeah, just be aware and be excellent to each other.
Oh, that's lovely, isn't it? Okay, so let's round off then. What am I thinking that have been said? What will stick in my mind? I think some of the things that sticks in my mind is what Martin said was, this technology works both ways. So utilize that. I think that's important. Like I said, I put out a Sunday Long Live challenge to you guys saying, would you go out on the street and talk to people, go up to them with your phone sort of upside down so the microphone's, press the record button, say, hi, I'm from Sunday Long Live, and ask them a question. What do you think about the Migrant Compact? What's your view on the current state of the Federal Reserve? Whatever it is relevant to you, send us 60 seconds of audio and we'll play it. If the audio's sort of not too bad, we'll play it. That's fine. Another thing that Ed said is, if you're passing somebody on the street or whatever, or elevator style, if you're in an elevator and it came up, it's that really short pitch. How do you get that across? I thought what Ed said was really relevant, is you've got to check out more than one news source. If you want to recommend said news source from whoever you feel that you should pass on, I don't think they should be too much of a loon if they're sort of a different point of view. So there's just some things to pick up on there, guys. And back, because we're all connected via fibre optics and a tiny little bit of Wi-Fi on the end, regarding back in the day and ham radio. So you've been talking CB radio and ham radio. So I won't go into too much depth about this, but they are essentially the same thing. But with CB radio, as Martin said, on a flat surface with a legal amount of output, you're going to get about 30 miles, say, on a flat surface. So CB radios, you can pick one up, you're not breaking the laws, but you're going to cover about 30 miles. If you're going to go ham radio, that's a different ballgame altogether. And that enables you to bounce off the ionosphere. And a ham radio consists of a few bands. You've got 160, 80, 40, 20, 17, 15, 12 and 10. This meterage across this wavelength works like this. In a solar minimum, those top bands won't work over distance, so you have to go to the low bands. So if you go to 80 meters at 11 o'clock in your region and you want to talk to, say you're in the US and you want to talk to, I don't know, Australia, you have to use that band. So with ham radio, although you get the worldwide coverage and you get big worldwide nets, particularly military nets, that's where you find them, you need the knowledge to be able to operate a ham radio. But with the CB radio, you can just simply plug and play and speak to the people within 30 miles. I hope that clears up a bit between CB radio and ham radio. And we're currently in a grand solar minimum in the sun. So you're not going to go too far with a CB radio, but you will be able to stay in touch with your local people, because at an end of world scenario, if they did pull the plug, it's going to be act local, think global, and that's the kind of situation. If you're just joining us, guys, or just coming to the end of it, this is Ria Bow on Sunday or on Long Live Radio. I want to thank the panel for joining us. Ed in Canada, Fred in Canada, Kimbercat in the US, Martin in the Isle of Man, Nanon in Ireland, Stockport, Keep Boozings Andy in Stockport, Val in the US, and Scotty down in Australia, albeit an expat. The show's a bit wobbly in places, but hey, it's a live show. What happens, happens. I hope you had got something from it, as it were. Simon says, I am a registered ham radio. Excellent. But if it was an end of world radio end of world scenario, you wouldn't worry too much about a license. You just get on with it, wouldn't you? Although it is fully regulated by Ofcom. Okay, guys, I'm going to see you another day. Stuart Walker, I love you, man. Anybody? Elizabeth, hi, I love you too. Susie Lady, if there's anybody I haven't said hello to, you know you're going to get said hello to on Sunday Long Live. So join us on Sunday Long Live Radio. Every Sunday, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard it starts, 10 a.m. GMT and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I hope you enjoyed it and you got something from it, guys. You take it easy and I'll see you on Sunday Long Live Radio. But until then, bye-bye for now.